Hello everybody, my name is Manuel and welcome to another Eternal Brews video series. Today I want to talk about a deck that VSarius and I built together a while ago. A bunch of you might already know it and have seen it or even tried it. That caused a bit of fuss for a while, and we experimented a bunch. So the deck basically came to be from an idea that VSarius approached me about. Like, I had this loose idea of like trying basically like a bigger Feln tempo with like Spymaster that's like more mid-rangey and trying to exploit stuff, and we like loosely talked about that, I think, but never really did anything. And he eventually started like working on it and brewing it and trying it a bit and really liked the potential it had and showed me like what he had at that point. And from there on we basically worked on it quite a bunch and like went through various iterations. We went from like initially like kind of a messy, raw, mid-rangey build to a more like streamlined, infiltrate heavy, proactive build that was closer to Feln tempo with like less rare rangers and blood beetles to have more ways to get extra value from the Spymaster, but gave up on that after a while because some of the individual cards were just like too weak. Living the dream of like recurring beetle or ranger infiltrates just didn't happen that much, and on their own the cards were kinda weak, so we had to like reinvent the deck a bit. And that's like the list that most people I think knew or saw. This list right now is like the last one that we built as a result of the findings with the infiltrate heavier version, and I think not so many people know this list. And this is like the final product basically that we settled on with the deck a while ago, and I figured it's about time to record it, even though the deck didn't turn out to be like a breakout archetype worthy of like Eternal Contenders and being super competitive. The deck is still very interesting and a lot of fun to play, and at least managed to win like 50% or more of its games while not proving to be like a major archetype, unlike, for example, the Praxis midrange that I recorded the other day. So yeah, this is basically more of a mid-range and individual card quality focused build again, after we tried the more synergetic build that didn't really work out so well. So let's dive right in. Basically what we have is like a removal package of 4 Permafrost for Annihilate that we already know from Feln tempo. These are just like very efficient and cheap and fairly flexible. The deck cares as much about getting rid of Titan as Feln tempo does basically, so you want for Annihilate. And Permafrost is just great in a deck that wants to like be proactive, clear the way, and have like kind of a cheap, universal, tempo efficient removal. It's not as great in like slower reactive decks where the opponent eventually will find a way to break the Permafrost or silence it off. So it's kind of unreliable long term as removal, but it's great as like a temporary removal when your game doesn't go forever, or you have ways to like not care whether it gets broken or not later in the game, like this deck. And then we have 2 Suffocate, since this deck couldn't and didn't really want to run Rapid Shot, which is nice because now Rapid Shot is kind of bad, so it's good that this deck doesn't care about that. And yeah, Suffocate is like another cheap, tempo efficient removal to protect ourselves early on and like gain momentum early on potentially. And there's a lot of good targets again with like Chalice and Feln Control running rampant and stuff. And the other removal basically is like sort of removal is Vara's Favor, which is also part of the power base. So this is like small stuff removal and Sigil all in one. We all know by now how great this card is. No difference in this deck. And last but not least, we have 2 Feeding Time as like kind of a catch-all answer, because it's also like a great recursive removal for Westwind Herald. Infinite infiltrate with Spymaster, so you can just start killing off all the relevant units one by one each turn. Then we have some disruption, Sabotage, just great in a deck like this, protects our key cards, lets us set up plays, like for example, clear the path for a Beastcaller's Amulet, or like for a Spymaster into like infiltrate stuff, and so on. And if it's not good anymore, we can just toss it to Whispering Wind. And also the information gain in general is really good. Then we have like the unit package, like for Instigators, which is just a great offense-defense 2-drop that also synergizes very well with the Beastcaller's Amulet, which is one of our major payoff cards with Spymaster, making a 5/5 a turn. Whispering Wind, which is an overall powerhouse and a great engine card that ties the deck together, lets you cycle situational cards into potentially better cards, lets you cycle excess power into a business and so on. Also an evasive 2-drop to put Amulet on, just does it all basically. Great card. The deck would not even be worth considering without Whispering Wind, I think. Midnight Gale. It has Infiltrate on it, but it has no synergy with Spymaster, but it's still just a great card. The 4/3 lifesteal does a lot in terms of racing and pressuring opponents due to its evasion. Makes it really hard for like aggressive decks to beat you if you have an active Midnight Gale basically, and Sabotage helps setting up and protecting a Midnight Gale. Also a good target for Amulet once again. Then we have 2 Mirror Image, but I'll talk about those in a bit because they're not really part of the unit package, but like indirectly they are. I mean, in terms of being a unit, they basically can just copy whatever good unit we have, and since we only have premium units, it's usually going to be a good unit as long as we have another unit, because all our units are good. Like, we don't have bad targets basically. One of the weaker targets in a way is Whispering Wind, but it's also not bad to have 2 Whispering Winds going. Just a little inefficient to copy a 2-drop. Then we have Spymaster. This is one of the core parts of the deck, so mostly to refresh, infiltrate on Amulet and Western Herald, and overall just being like a solid body. If you can clear the way with removal, a 4/4 is a decent threat. And the deck has quite a bunch of removal and ways to recur it. Then we have 1 Champion of Cunning, simply as like a part of like the mid-range plan, and since it kind of turned out better than a Force Western Herald, also gives us some diversity with Whispering Wind, and the card can just like randomly win games on its own. Just a nice thing to have basically. We just wanted like a little more like individual powerful cards to take over games. And then we have the 3 Westwind Herald. They are mostly there to synergize with Spymaster to recur spells over and over, and also that's what I meant with talking about the Mirror Image later. And Mirror Image is mainly in the deck because of Herald, otherwise we wouldn't play like a situational card like this. But the fact that there's basically only good targets for it, and that it can make a Westwind Herald every turn together with Westwind Herald, and with a Spymaster even go like make 1 Herald, make 2 Heralds, make 4 Heralds until the board is full basically. At that point the opponent's probably just gonna be dead already. And just kind of go nuts. Although actually like 4 doesn't work because I think you need you can't target the same card multiple times with Heralds and they trigger at the same time, I think. I'm not sure right now anymore how that worked, but I think you cannot, if you have 2 Heralds attacking and triggering, I think you cannot make 2 Heralds with just 1 Mirror Image in the void. So the maximum you can make is like 2 units a turn with 2 images in play. Also nice, like you can just throw an image to Whispering Wind to cycle it just to have it in the void for Herald later, for example. You don't even need to like ever play it. And the last sort of unit in the deck is the Scouting Party, so that we have a way to cycle our 5s up the chain. Like for example, if a Crystallize isn't that good, we could turn it into a party, plus Herald into party, into attack, infiltrate, replay party, beat some decks on its own. It's like another part of this really powerful like late game engine, also great synergy with the one champion, and synergy with the Spymaster. And yeah, that's just like a powerful tool to have access to, and a good way to be able to cycle our 5s into something powerful. Some matchups, like for example against Armory, this card is great, and can single-handedly turn the game. And last, we basically just have the 2 Crystallize that I already mentioned briefly. That's basically a soft lock with Herald. You can just Crystallize, attack every turn to Crystallize again, just keep the opponent in a Crystallize lock. You can sometimes just like kill people with a single Herald and a Crystallize. And a Spymaster, you just keep attacking them for like 6 a turn and crystallize their board over and over until they're dead. And yeah, I already talked about Amulet. Amulet's just overall a great 3-drop in a deck like this, and also really brutal with Spymaster, since, like for example, if you go turn 2 Whispering Wind into Amulet, into turn 4 Spymaster, make another 5/5, a lot of decks just can't beat that. Like, people have been scooping on the spot many times to exactly display. So that card is like the big early payoff to go like turn 3 Amulet into turn 4 Spymaster, and the other play is like turn 4 Spymaster into turn 5 Herald, or turn 4 something into turn 5 Herald into turn 6 Spymaster, for example. And yeah, the power base is just like 25 power, 2 Seek, 4 Favor, which is like 31 power, which is like the bare minimum. We at some point had 32, but we currently like settled with 31 to fit everything, and the right number is somewhere between 31 and 32. Like 31 felt pretty okay, but there is that small chance that it should be 32, simply because with 4 Whispering Wind in your deck, all you want is to not screw, and if you like flood a bit, that often is not a problem because you can cycle away some power, while if you are screwed, Wind doesn't do anything to help you, and doesn't even do a whole lot in general, because then the card is kind of just a 1/2 flyer, because cycling cheaper cards into more expensive cards doesn't do anything when you're screwed, and you can't find power with it unless you get like lucky and cycle like, I don't know, a 1 into a Vara's favor, for example, which actually sometimes happens and is nice if you're a little light on power, but yeah, it's not reliable. And yeah, the deck is extremely fun. There's a lot of powerful synergies. I'm honestly not quite sure what the deck is missing to be like truly good, because it has a lot of powerful things going on. It has a proactive plan, it has a lot of answers in disruption, incredibly powerful late game synergies and engines to just win deep into a game, not relying on like winning early like other proactive decks, and having much more powerful stuff going on than an average mid-range deck, but somehow it just seemed to fall short. Like, we managed to pull merely above 50% over like bigger sample sizes, and ultimately decided that the deck doesn't have the potential to be like a major contender, but still is like a really cool and interesting and fun concept, and couldn't really figure out how to further improve it, or if there even is a way, like, because we couldn't find a way how to further improve it, or really find out what the exact problem is. So if anyone has an idea or find anything while trying this, let us know. We just kind of eventually were at the end, at our wits' end with the deck, but the deck is still like really cool and really fun and definitely worth sharing, and there's always people that don't care as much about pure win percentage and more about like cool and interesting stuff, and then this deck is definitely for them. And once again, the deck is not bad, it's just not great. The deck is not gonna like kill your ranking, it's just also not gonna improve it by much. You mostly will like bounce around a bit where you are, basically, which is fine. And yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy the deck. We had a lot of fun building it and tuning it and toying around with it. It's one of the coolest decks that I've played in the game so far, and it's also actually pretty skill testing, because there's so many different interactions and so many different things you can do with your cards and with your power in a given turn. And yeah, it's really interesting, like how many possibilities the deck gives you in a lot of spots, which makes it really challenging and fun and interesting to play. Just unfortunate that it wasn't able to quite post the results we were hoping for, given how promising it looked in the beginning. Alright, that's it for the deck tech. As usual, I'm gonna hop into a bunch of games to show it in action, show you what it is capable of, and like all the possibilities. So stay tuned for the first half of the games in a moment. Thanks for watching. Bye.